Thank you. First of all, I would like to express my very, very sincere gratitude to the organizers for such a nice meeting, for the possibility to meet with my Vatican colleagues and my true friends, because I remember at that challenging moment, it was very important to have a helping hand from Irena, from Jan, from Tamara. And I couldn't but mention some other ambassadors at that very moment in 2014. It was Polish ambassador Hanna Suchocka. It was then Polish ambassador Piotr Nowina-Konopka, of course. Then American ambassador Ken Hackett. Then German ambassador Chavan. And ambassador of Great Britain, Sally Ashworthy. And I want to say about Sally Ashworthy because she began her diplomatic career in Kiev in 1991 as a third secretary. And so when he came to Vatican, she was well experienced and remember quite well Ukraine. And it was symbolic indeed, and I think that in my mission in the Holy See, there were many symbolic signs which I followed and took very seriously. Even that Ambassador Jan Tambinski was appointed to the Vatican, but before he was ambassador in Ukraine, and then he moved into the Holy See. In such a small detail, may I say, touched the Eastern Ostpolitik. And not only Jan Tambinski, I remember Monique Frank, ambassador to the Netherlands. She was ambassador of the Netherlands in Ukraine, and then moved directly to the Vatican. Then in 2017, Spanish ambassador, Ottone.
Bogalio.
Ottone Bogalio, yeah. Moved directly from Ukraine to the Holy See. So, with such a background and Ukrainian reality, they managed to just to make a great job concerning Ukraine and Ukrainian reality and the situation in Ukraine. So I prepared before to speak just in a more theoretical way, but after such a comprehensive and structurized review in retrospective just of the situation and of the tendency, I think that I'd better concentrate and touch on some phenomena and examples which confirm what has been already said, and just from my personal experience. I presented credentials in 2007. It was the second year of the papacy of Pope Benedict. And my impression was that he realized quite well that he couldn't be like Pope John Paul II, so beloved, so consecrated, so honored. But he tried to follow his traditions and just to follow protocol and ceremonial of the Vatican. I remember that even in terms of the State Secretariat, he just was guided and followed the decisions they made. As it concerns the relations with the Russian Orthodox Church, I remember that Metropolitan Hilarion wasn't so often received by Pope Benedict. she visited Vatican, and there were even meetings with diplomats, I mean from our embassy and other embassies, then meetings of Ukrainian Orthodox Church of Moscow Patriarchate with Greek Catholics. And I want to remember this exhibition we organized. It was a kind of breakthrough. It was an exhibition of the icons. The name of it was The Golden Epoch of Ukrainian Icon. There were icons from Museum of Andrei Sheptytsky and icons from the Kiev Pechersk Lavra. It was such an exposition of icons of eastern part of Ukraine and of western part of Ukraine. And this exhibition took place in Ancona. There was a visit of Metropolite Vladimir, accompanied by Bishop Alexander Drabinka. And I remember this press conference. It was why it was in a kind of breakthrough, because there were present representative of Greek Catholic Church, Vladika Dionysi, then representatives of, Archbishop of Loreto, Archbishop of Ancona, then Metropolite Vladimir, and Bishop Alexander Drabinka. And I think that if now it's not Metropolite Anufi and Metropolite Vladimir, the situation could be different in terms of United Church and many other issues just concerning the current period. But we have what we have. Then the situation with the State Secretariat, at that period, the position of the State Secretariat was very strong. And the voice of the State Secretariat was very strong. The Secretary of the Relations between the states was Mamberti. But number two was Pietro Parolin, a professional and diplomat, and a very strong diplomat. Then, just 2013, you remember quite well, new Pope, new continent. It was a surprise, but happiness and many new things. In 2013, I remember, and how can I compare this period, then I follow, and I can compare even the position of the State Secretary of the Holy See. 2013, yeah. It was something new in comparison with Pope Benedict. One word I may say, simplicity, yeah? You remember, the main principle of Pope Francis was simplicity. Indeed, closer to people than communication, but less attention to diplomats and to us, to embassies, and to protocol maybe. And my personal impression that for him it was a little unclear why this déguisement, voile noir, robe montante, effrac, ambassadors, and all this déguisement. Yes, it was something new for him, you remember? Then, but he followed these traditions at the very beginning. And then, 2014, the situation in Ukraine. And I remember Polish ambassador Piotr Nowina-Konopka, the next day we met with him and we discussed what can be done, etc., etc. And he offered that let's organize something as it was, for example, during Solidarność with Pope Paul II. During Angelus and he said that it's better he himself offered it to the Holy See, to put a burning candle and to pray for Ukraine. And you know, it was approved and supported in the State Secretariat and other representatives. But finally, we didn't receive positive response. So I can't explain it, but I think that it's the influence of different representatives of lobbyists maybe, and this neutrality, and to be under the conflict, something like this. Well, just I tried to say something about Metropolitan Ilarion. And at that very moment, Metropolitan Ilarion appeared very often in the Vatican. And he was received too often by Pope Francis, I should say. Well, and State Secretariat of this moment, the position of the State Secretariat, little by little became weaker. And very often we just addressed to Paul Gallagher and to other representatives and very experienced and professional diplomat Antoine Camilleri. And they supported us and approved the statements or our propositions. And they said that we just transmit the version to the Casa Pontificia and to the Pope. Okay, but at that very last moment, some paragraphs are missing, some words are missing. So, but then I was said that if we can't speak by the voice of the Pope, we can use our international organizations, our nuncios and representatives, observers and international organizations. I remember Silvio Tomasi in Geneva, and indeed at the beginning it was a strong voice. It was named a massacre, an aggression and bloodshed. Indeed, and we even quoted his speeches during the fora in Geneva. Then I can mention even the United Nations at that period, it was 2015, it was Nuncio Azua Bernardino, I think. And during an open meeting of the Security Council, there was a debate, a discussion. And it took the floor, and even in the status of an observer. And he named the situation in Ukraine as aggression and in such a wording, you know. So you see that in such a situation, indeed, the position of the State Secretariat little by little became weaker. Then 2016, Havana Declaration, and the State Secretariat wasn't among those who prepared this declaration. State Secretariat received this declaration 2 days before the Pope's departure. Yes, and it was almost impossible to do something, but they tried to make some corrections, but not substantial. So, a lot of good things Pope Francis made for Ukraine. Let's remember call for humanitarian aid. Yes. Then prayers. Then visit of Saint Sophia. But in this very period, of course, we want stronger voice. And to name what is black, what is white is white. And do not mention Red Riding Hood and Grey Wolf, that in such a situation then there can't be Krasne Шапочки и Серого Вовка. But we know This is a war, this is invasion. And when the Pope speaks about racism towards Syrians in the context of Ukrainians, the Pope should name the source of it. Who is the source of it? Who created that the Syrian people suffered a lot and Ukrainians suffered a lot? Just speaking about Pope Francis, it's my personal observations. I think that the situation in Argentina, junta, in 1976 and 1983 couldn't but influenced the Pope. These hard lessons in that period, in harsh trauma in his memories. It was a lot of victims, just genocide, thousands of people missing, as far as I remember, 30,000 missing, then 60,000 imprisoned, and tortures, genocide, and a lot of things what we witness now. And there are some things which are not unequivocally defined. And maybe to some extent something just influences, just beside all that what already said, and Lovists and the surroundings, and his vocation to Christian unity. And I remember in OC, when I was a personal representative of the chair in office on combating intolerance and discrimination against Christians and other representatives of other religions, in the United Nations and other international organizations, Holy See has a status of observer, but in Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the Holy See is one of the founders of this organization. But during the debates, during the votes, always the Holy See remembers that they should support Russia because of Christian unity, because of family values and other issues they shared with Russia. So, of course, we want to have stronger voice, and we should work a lot. I remember the meeting of Professor Marinevich with the Pope and with this delegation with a representative of Argentina. It was so open, so sincere, and the Pope with such a love for Ukraine, and it looked, he understands quite well. And then his conversation with Kirill, with Patriarch Kirill, and the situation changed and his voice changed. So more often we should send such delegations as it was. Then I remember even the words of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Poland. He just gave instructions to the Polish ambassador to go to the Vatican, to the Pope, to the representatives and Secretariat of the Vatican, and to give the real information about situation in Ukraine. Not only Ukrainians, but the other countries, and I well remember the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Poland. So, in conclusion, I want to say that I'm optimistic for the outlook, because bit by bit I think Pope Francis can understand the situation. And maybe sometimes we could mention the situation in Argentina, but in a sense of the situation in Ukraine, because it's true. And yeah. So, as I already said, there are many symbolic signs in my life in my mission in the Holy See, and just now, a week ago, I was in Rome, and when I am in Rome, I like to visit the Church of San Alfonso, Our Lady of Unceasing Help of Perpetuum Soccorso. Yes, then I visited this Church of Our Lady of Peace, you know, Perpetuum Soccorso, Unceasing Help, then Our Lady of Peace. So I was back to Belgium, so I visited the Cathedral of Saint Michel at Gudule. So I was given a small image of this icon, Unceasing Help, and then I went to Brugge, and I visited this Cathedral of Christ Savior, Spasитель, Christos Spasитель. And I was very surprised that this icon is very honored in Belgium. There was a great icon of Mater Božja Neustanная Pomoć. So then I was walking around and I saw this special icon market, and just in front of me, in the middle, was the icon of Mater Božja Neustanная Pomoć. I was looking and I decided that this Our Lady of Unceasing Help asked to go with me to Lviv, to Ukraine, and then I brought it. So,
thank you.
I'm sorry, this is with yes. I remember about our meeting about foreign ambassadors and unceasing help, peace, and salvation.